My name is Isabella Hart, and I'm 30 years old. Last Tuesday, I came home from a 4-day business trip feeling accomplished, exhausted, and completely unaware that my life was about to split into before and after. My boyfriend, Daniel Reeves, 35, was waiting in the kitchen when I walked in, beaming, practically glowing. We'd been together 3 years, engaged for 6 months. He'd moved into my house a year ago. "Bella," he said, waving his phone like he'd just won the lottery, "I have the best surprise." That word. Surprise! Daniel's surprises were rarely gifts. They were usually decisions. Decisions about my time, my money, my space, made without asking me. I set my suitcase down slowly. "What did you do?" He laughed like I was being dramatic. "Remember how stressed you were about wedding costs? Well, I took initiative." My stomach dropped. "I sold those dusty comics in the basement, made $8,000. We can upgrade the honeymoon." The room didn't spin. It froze. Those weren't dusty comics. That was my collection. 25 years of hunting conventions with my dad. Trading, cataloging, preserving each issue in climate-controlled sleeves. Every box labeled, every slab graded. Every piece logged in a spreadsheet down to condition and market trends. "You sold my comics?" I asked, very carefully. "Don't look at me like that," Daniel said defensively. "They were just sitting there. You never even look at them anymore." I inhaled slowly. "Which ones did you sell?" He shrugged. "All of them? The boxes in the basement storage room. I listed them as a bulk lot on eBay. Some dealer bought everything for $8,000, already shipped yesterday." My legs felt weak. In those boxes, my GC 9.8, Amazing Fantasy number 15, my complete early Amazing Spider-Man run, my Neil Adams Batman collection. Conservative estimate, $250,000, maybe more. "Daniel," I said, my voice almost calm enough to sound detached. "Did you see comics in hard plastic cases with grades on them?" "Oh, those thick plastic things? Yeah, a bunch. Why?" I pulled out my phone and opened my spreadsheet. Amazing Fantasy number 15, CGC 9.8. He blinked. "Okay. That single comic is worth about $80,000. The color drained from his face. "That's ridiculous. It's paper. It's the first appearance of Spider-Man. Near mint condition." Silence. "You should have told me they were valuable," he snapped, recovering quickly. "How was I supposed to know? They were in my house, in my storage room, clearly preserved. You had no right to touch them." "I was trying to help," he shot back. "You're always complaining about money." "I complain about your spending," I said quietly. "There's a difference." He crossed his arms. "We're getting married. It's ours anyway." "We're getting married." Past tense, I thought. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just walked into my office, closed the door, and called my attorney. 2 days later, Daniel's emotional transformation was almost fascinating. Day 1, denial. Day 2, panic. Day 3, rage. He tried everything. Calling eBay, PayPal, even the buyer. The sale was complete. Items delivered and signed for. The buyer had already left feedback. Amazing haul. Seller had no idea what they had. Daniel slammed his laptop shut. He knew he was ripping us off. "No," I replied evenly. "You ripped me off." He got lucky. My attorney, Harrison Cole, reviewed everything. Conversion. Unauthorized sale of property. Clear evidence. His eBay account. His messages. PayPal receipt. The demand letter went out Thursday morning. Immediate return of all items, or payment of $247,000, plus legal fees. Daniel was served at work, marketing manager at a tech startup. He called me screaming. "You sent lawyers to my office? You sold $250,000 of my property," I said. "What did you expect, a thank you card? I'm your fiancé, for now." "You're ending our relationship over comics?" "I'm ending it over theft." He hung up. Then he went nuclear. Social media posts about how I valued toys over our future, how I was emotionally cold, financially controlling, obsessed. His friends piled on. My phone lit up with accusations. And then Daniel made his second biggest mistake. "Drop the lawsuit," he texted, "or I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are." I screenshot it immediately. Harrison was delighted. "Extortion attempt," he said. "This keeps getting better." But that evening, Daniel finally Googled what he'd sold. And that's when he called me. Not angry, crying. "We could have sold them properly," he sobbed. "We could have had hundreds of thousands. There is no we," I interrupted. "They were mine. I was going to be your husband." "That doesn't make my property yours." Silence, then bitterness. "I'll fight this. I'll tell everyone you hide assets. I'll say you abused me." "Daniel," I said calmly, "this call is being recorded." He hung up. I stared at my reflection in the dark window. He hadn't apologized. Not once. 1 week later, Daniel's entitlement evolved into performance art. If part 1 was shock, part 2 was theater. He didn't try to fix what he'd done. He tried to rewrite it. First, he claimed the comics were a gift. A public Facebook post appeared. Funny, the problem? A month earlier, he'd texted me, "Can I sell some of your old stuff in the basement?" My response had been crystal clear. "Do not touch anything in basement storage." Harrison, intent, knowledge, direct instruction. He's finished. But Daniel wasn't done. When the financial abuse, he posted vague statements about women who weaponize money against the men they claim to love. He implied I controlled him, that I refused to add him to my bank accounts, that I kept him off the deed to my house. We weren't married. Those were boundaries, not abuse. But online, nuance dies quickly. His best friend Tyler wrote a long post about men trapped in financially manipulative relationships. Daniel shared it. People commented things like, "She's probably hiding something." "Red flag when a woman won't combine finances." Poor guy. My phone buzzed nonstop. I didn't respond publicly. I didn't need to, because while Daniel was posting, Harrison was building. We located the buyer through eBay. His name was Randy Mitchell, longtime collector. When Harrison reached him, Randy agreed to speak with me directly. "I feel bad," Randy admitted over the phone, "but I bought them fair and square. He listed them. I paid. That's not on me." "I understand," I said, "but legally, they're stolen property." "According to who?" he countered. "I have receipts." He wasn't wrong. But Harrison had a strategy. We filed suit against both Daniel and Randy. Daniel for conversion, fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Randy for receiving stolen property. Not to punish him, but to freeze the collection. When Randy was served, he exploded. Not at me. At Daniel. And then something unexpected happened. Randy forwarded me everything. Every private message. Every lie. Daniel had contacted him before the auction ended. "If you win," Daniel had written, "I'll throw in extra slabs not listed." He'd asked Randy not to mention individual values and feedback. He'd suggested using PayPal, friends, and family to avoid fees. And the most painful line, "My girlfriend's an obsessive nerd. She needs a lesson." A lesson. I read that sentence 5 times. My hands didn't shake. They went cold. Meanwhile, Daniel hired a lawyer, not a good one. A discount litigator named Gregory Haynes, who took the case for a $2,000 retainer Daniel barely had. Gregory sent a cease and desist letter that was almost embarrassing. It claimed, "The comics were premarital marital property. I had abandoned them by storing them." Daniel had verbal permission to sell. The lawsuit was harassment. Harrison's response was surgical. 3 pages dismantling every claim with case law citations. The final paragraph. "Your client has admitted in writing to unauthorized sale of property. Advise immediate return or prepare for criminal referral." That's when Daniel panicked. At 2:07 a.m., my phone rang. He was drunk. Sobbing. "Bella, please, just drop it. I'll do anything. Return my collection." "I can't. Randy won't sell them back." "Then pay me their value." "With what? You know I don't have that." "Then we go to court." You're destroying my life over paper and ink. You destroyed our relationship over $8,000 you had no right to touch. Silence. The words landed like ice water. I didn't argue. I didn't comfort him. I hung up and called 911 for a wellness check. The police found him drunk, emotional, but safe. He texted me minutes later. You're trying to make me look crazy. No. You're doing that yourself, I thought. 3 days later, Daniel tried something new. He started a blog, Surviving Isabella. He used my middle name, thinking it was clever. Daily posts about narcissism. Emotional cruelty. Women who love objects more than men. He wrote, she treated those comics better than she treated me. Yes, because they didn't betray me. The blog gained minor traction until Randy found it and posted screenshots of Daniel bragging about teaching me a lesson, of him admitting he knew some were valuable, of him saying he didn't care. The comment section shifted overnight. People started asking uncomfortable questions. Tyler deleted his financial abuse post. Daniel's narrative was cracking. Then came the real escalation. I filed a criminal complaint. The detective assigned was Detective Laura Morrison. She listened carefully as I explained. He sold your entire collection while you were away? She asked. Yes. And these are the grading certificates? Insurance appraisal? Yes. She leaned back. This is felony theft, grand larceny. Hearing the words spoken out loud made it real. Daniel wasn't just my ex-fiancé anymore. He was a defendant. He was arrested the following Monday. At work. Escorted out past coworkers. By Wednesday, he was encouraged to resign. His mugshot leaked. Mascara streaked under his eyes, hair disheveled. He blamed me, publicly, privately, relentlessly. But something had shifted. For the first time, he looked afraid. And fear doesn't look good on someone who once thought he was teaching you a lesson. 3 weeks after Daniel's arrest, the performance ended. Reality arrived quietly, in paperwork, subpoenas, and the slow grind of the legal system. Randy cracked first. His attorney advised him that even unknowingly holding stolen property was risky. After several tense negotiations, he agreed to a settlement. He would return the most valuable comics, roughly $180,000 worth, in exchange for immunity and dismissal of the civil suit against him. When the courier delivered the first secured case back to me, my hands trembled for the first time since this started. Amazing Fantasy number 15, CGC 9.8. The slab looked untouched. I sat on the floor of my office and just stared at it. My dad had given me my first Spider-Man comic when I was 5. He'd passed away 6 years ago. Collecting wasn't just a hobby, it was memory preservation. Daniel hadn't just sold paper. He'd boxed up pieces of my childhood and mailed them away. He was ecstatic for about 5 seconds when he heard Randy was returning part of the collection. See, he told his public defender, this proves it wasn't that serious. Then his defender explained something to him. Returned items established verified value. Verified value strengthened the criminal case. And strengthened cases mean prison. Daniel stopped smiling. Detective Morrison moved quickly. With the appraisal documents, grading certificates, auction comps, and the recovered slabs, the valuation was undeniable. Grand larceny in the 2nd degree. Felony level. He was formally charged. Daniel was arrested at work again. This time processed, fingerprinted, and booked. By Friday, he was unemployed. The mugshot made the rounds online. Someone, not me, leaked it to a local gossip forum. Comments weren't kind. Sold her collection. Idiot. Over $200,000? Imagine throwing away your life for $8,000. Daniel's lawyer, Gregory, withdrew within days when Daniel couldn't pay more than the initial retainer. A public defender stepped in. He wrote, she's using her money to bury me. She cares more about collectibles than love. A real woman would forgive, but the people linked court documents. Randy posted his full message thread again. Daniel's own words became evidence against him. Daniel showed up in a fitted navy suit that looked suspiciously new. Later, he tried to look small, fragile, victimized. The prosecutor presented the eBay listing. Selling girlfriend's collection while she's away. Text to friends. I'm teaching her not to ignore me. Messages to Randy about hiding values. The extortion text, threatening my reputation. The suicide threat. The judge flipped slowly through the packet. Mr. Reeves, she said evenly, did you have permission to sell this property? Daniel shifted in his seat. We were engaged. That's not what I asked. Silence. The judge set a trial date, denied dismissal, and granted a temporary restraining order based on the harassment and threats. Daniel collapsed into his chair, shaking his head. As deputies escorted him out, he shouted, "She's ruining my life over nothing." Nothing. $250,000. 25 years. My father. Nothing. After the hearing, his public defender approached me in the hallway. She's going to lose, he said quietly. If you're willing to consider restitution, now's the time. What's the offer? He'll sign over his car, his savings, jewelry, everything. How much is that worth? Maybe $30,000? My collection had been worth $250,000. Then we proceed, I said. The defender nodded. Fair enough. But Daniel still didn't understand what accountability meant. He escalated again. He launched a GoFundMe titled, Help Daniel Rebuild After False Accusations. It raised $500, $400 of it from his mother. He began posting TikToks about toxic collector culture and women who weaponize wealth. Each video got a few hundred views. The sympathy he expected never materialized. Even Tyler stopped commenting. Jessica, the friend who had once posted about financial abuse, deleted everything and privately messaged me. I didn't know the whole story. I'm sorry. I appreciated it. But apologies from bystanders don't restore trust. Then came discovery. And that's when Daniel's final mistake surfaced. Randy agreed to testify in exchange for immunity. Under oath, he explained. He contacted me before the auction ended. Said if I won, he'd throw in extra comics. Said his girlfriend was an obsessive nerd who deserved this. The prosecutor asked, did he indicate he understood their value? Randy nodded. He said he Googled some. He knew they were worth more. He said money wasn't everything. Teaching her a lesson was. I didn't look at Daniel. I didn't need to. The courtroom went quiet because motive matters. Spite matters. Intent matters. Trial was set. And for the first time since this started, I felt something unexpected. Not anger. Not grief. Relief. Because Daniel had shown me exactly who he was. Not the charming man who proposed under fairy lights. Not the partner who said, what's yours is ours. But the man who would burn down something sacred to hurt me, then cry victim when the smoke cleared. And in court, smoke doesn't hide truth. It highlights it. The trial lasted 5 days. 5 days of carefully arranged facts dismantling 3 years of illusion. Daniel arrived every morning in increasingly expensive outfits. Tailored jackets, polished shoes, watches he clearly couldn't afford anymore. Later I learned he was borrowing money and stacking credit card debt just to look credible. The jury noticed. The prosecution began simply. Was the defendant married to the victim? No, Daniel admitted. Did he have written permission to sell her property? No. Did he know the items had value? He hesitated. I thought they were worth something. How much? I didn't know. The prosecutor displayed his message to Randy on the courtroom screen. She has no idea I'm selling these. It'll teach her a lesson. A murmur moved through the gallery. Teaching me a lesson. That phrase followed him like a shadow. Daniel's defense centered on one argument. We were building a life together. What's hers would have been ours, the prosecutor countered calmly. Engagement is not marriage. Shared future is not shared ownership. Love is not a legal defense for theft. Then came the Instagram post. 2 weeks before the sale, Daniel had posted a photo of himself holding a designer leather jacket. Caption, sometimes you have to invest in yourself. The price tag? $2,800. You had money for personal luxury, the prosecutor said evenly. But not patience to discuss finances? Daniel tried to pivot. She was controlling. She kept finances separate. Is financial independence abuse? The prosecutor asked. Daniel had no answer. Randy's testimony was devastating. She knew exactly what she was doing, Randy said clearly. She told me her girlfriend was obsessed with these comics and needed perspective. He corrected himself quickly. Ex-girlfriend now, I guess. The courtroom remained still. Did he indicate knowledge of value? Yes. He said he Googled several issues and didn't care because the point wasn't the money. What was the point? To hurt her. Daniel stared at the table. For the first time, he looked small. The prosecution then introduced the blog. Excerpts where Daniel admitted selling the collection but framed himself as misunderstood. One particular entry was read aloud. She chose paper over me, so I chose action over patience. The prosecutor closed her folder. No further questions. When it was my turn to speak, my victim impact statement, I stood slowly. My hands were steady. Your Honor, this was not a misunderstanding. It was not poor communication. It was calculated. Daniel waited until I was out of town. He listed my collection as a bulk lot to avoid scrutiny. He contacted the buyer privately to hide true values. He bragged about teaching me a lesson. I swallowed once. These comics weren't just collectibles. They were 25 years of memories. My father introduced me to them when I was a child. Some issues he gave me himself. Daniel didn't sell them because we needed money. He sold them because he was angry that I wouldn't combine finances or fund his spending habits. I met Daniel's eyes for the first time that week. He has never apologized, not once. He has blamed me, the buyer, the legal system, everyone but himself. I stepped back. The courtroom felt very quiet. Daniel's statement came next. He cleared his throat. I'm sorry Isabella feels hurt. I was trying to contribute to our wedding. If she had trusted me more with finances, none of this would have happened. I've lost my job, my reputation, my future. Isn't that punishment enough? It wasn't an apology. It was a complaint. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Reeves, you have consistently refused accountability. You sold property valued at approximately $250,000 for $8,000 out of spite. You attempted to intimidate the victim. You publicly defamed her. You have shown no remorse. She paused. This court finds you guilty of grand larceny in the second degree. Daniel's face went pale. Sentencing, 2 to 4 years in state prison. Restitution of $240,000 to the victim upon release. A sharp inhale from the gallery. Daniel swayed, then collapsed. Paramedics were called. His mother sobbed in the back row, shouting about injustice. His friends, the few who still showed up, looked stunned. He regained consciousness briefly as deputies escorted him out in cuffs. He didn't look at me, and I didn't look at him. 6 months later, Daniel was released early. Overcrowding, first offense, good behavior. Prison hadn't softened him. It had reshaped him into something quieter, more bitter. He started a GoFundMe titled Rebuilding After Legal Injustice. It raised $517. His mother donated most of it. He tried becoming a social media advocate. Short videos about surviving narcissistic women and when collecting becomes hoarding. They averaged 300 views. People have short attention spans, but they don't have sympathy for documented theft. The restitution order requires him to pay $500 a month for the next 40 years. He has made exactly one payment, and only after his probation officer warned him. He works at a call center now, lives with his mother, occasionally posts passive-aggressive quotes about women who love objects more than people. I recovered about 60% of my collection. Amazing Fantasy number 15 was among the returned. Some sentimental pieces are gone forever, flipped by Randy before the freeze. Insurance covered part of the loss. Ironically, the drama created detailed documentation that increased appraisal value. Last month, Amazing Fantasy number 15 was reappraised, $95,000. Daniel sold it for maybe $200 inside a bulk lot. I don't take joy in that, but I take closure. I sold the house. Too many memories of arguments echoing in those walls. I moved into a condo with a dedicated, climate-controlled room. biometric locks, cameras, reinforced storage. Trust, once broken, makes you security conscious. Dating again has been interesting. So what happened in your last relationship is a difficult icebreaker. But I met someone. His name is Ethan Cole. He's a financial analyst. Practical, calm, observant. On our third date, I told him everything. He didn't laugh. He didn't minimize it. He said, "Anyone who doesn't respect what you value doesn't respect you." That sentence stayed with me. Daniel still emails from new addresses when I block the old ones. The message is always the same. "You ruined my life. I hope you're happy. You chose comics over me." Last week he wrote, "Was it worth it?" I didn't respond. But the answer is yes. Not because I wanted him in prison. Not because I'm vindictive. But because boundaries matter. Because trust matters. Because when someone shows you they're willing to destroy what you love just to hurt you, believe them the first time. The comics are objects, but respect isn't. And that was always the real thing on trial.